Hello and welcome to this episode of Connected. I'm Cherry Reynard. Today we're going to be taking a look at access to advice and how digital technology could expand it. With me to discuss this are Dynamic Planner Product Director Rowan Whittington and financial journalist Holly Mead. So welcome to you both.
Hello.
Hi, Cherry.
Perhaps we could start by looking at what the advice gap actually feels like to people. Holly, you're close to this issue from your work on the Sunday Times and other publications. Do you think people know that they should get advice?
I think it's one of those things that's on the financial to-do list for a lot of people, but it's not very exciting. People think it's going to be scary and complicated and moreover expensive. I think a lot of people are in that financial gap, but they don't realise they've fallen in. There's not the advertising of Mind the Gap quite as well as when you get on the tube. And I think that's a real problem because actually we know that the earlier you start with financial advice, kind of the easier it is. And instead, I think people wait until perhaps they get to this key life stage of retirement, or I've inherited this massive inheritance windfall and their affairs have suddenly got quite complicated. Whereas if we sort of started people earlier in their financial journey, you'd kind of have the building blocks. So I think it's something that gets put off for another day for really good reason. But maybe we should do more as an industry to kind of make people understand it is for them, even if their affairs are simple and even if they haven't got this huge net worth.
Yeah, I suppose there's a sort of trust thing as well. Like who do I go to? And maybe I'd rather be talking to my family or something like that.
Yeah, and I think every family's got horror stories as well. This is something I hear a lot of. Oh, I'd love financial advice, but my parents had this horrible experience, or my grandparents, the pension advisor ran away with it all, or the day they were due to retire, the scheme collapsed. And that's really scarring for the generations through a family. And I think that's a real shame because, you know, journalists that have been around for a lot of years, you know, we've seen such improvements in regulation and just in the advice space in general, in the investment space in general. Now, there's always going to be some rogue traders out there, but they're few and far between. But once you get one of these things where it's happened in the family, it's going to put people off because that's where so many people get their money narratives from. They get it from their friends and their family, and the fear of it going wrong is horrific. That's your money that you've worked and saved hard for, and you're like you say, you're trusting someone with it, and the idea that they could go rogue is scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Rowan, bringing you in here, is that your kind of experience as well? Are those the kind of things that are stopping people getting advice?
I think it is. It's so interesting to hear you say, Holly, that people kind of learn their approach to finances from their family, because that is very true. But also, we just don't talk about money. People don't want to. So if you only ever hear the horror stories, and it's already embarrassing to talk to anybody about it, you don't know where to start. You don't know who to trust. You don't know how to approach it. So it's easier to just ignore it and leave it for a moment when it has to happen. I think you're right that getting your foundations in place doesn't feel all that interesting. It doesn't feel all that fun. You know, if you're in your 30s. And someone says, well, if you've got to plan for a rainy day, you've got other things you need to be planning for as well. You want to be paying for things right now and dealing with things right now. Asking somebody to sit down and think about where they want to be with their life and with their financial plan in 30 years or 40 years, nobody's going to prioritise that, especially if they think that everybody else understands it and they're embarrassed and they don't want to bring it up and they feel that there's a lot of shame around kind of asking for help if you don't think you deserve it. There's lots of parallels with other industries where you don't want to take up someone's time because they might have someone else that they need to talk to. You know, you might have a mental health issue, but actually somebody else might need it more than I do. Or you might want to do some health, you might want to kind of lose some weight or go to the gym, but actually other people probably know how to do it better than they do. So you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to have that conversation. And that perception of it being a bit icky, a bit something that you're not really sure what to do. You don't really think it's for you. You don't want to go and ask a financial advisor and them say, oh, why do you want to talk to me? Go away and come back to me when you're wealthy. It makes it all messy. I think it was very interesting when you were like, people don't realise they're in the advice gap because they don't realise financial advice is for them. You think it's for the uber wealthy, but actually everybody would benefit from some form of advice.
I think your point about the 30, 40 years out thing is so pertinent as well. I think so many people struggle with that. And I'm one of them, the visualizing of the future self, the idea that I shouldn't have that takeaway coffee today because I might need it for care home fees in 50 years' time is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And I think actually that first advice session as well can throw some really sort of existential questions into the mix, can't it, that people have not considered before, and they're really important ones, but like you say, they might also add to that feeling of shame of oh, I've never thought about that. I don't know what retirement looks like. I don't know what my goals are.
Yeah, should I know? Am I supposed to know this? Does everybody but me know how to handle this? And that's the kind of group think, isn't it? You think, oh, I must be the
answer
only
is
one
no.
that doesn't get
I do
it.
mine with a magic 8-ball. That just makes my decision.
I've been at Dynamic Planner for a little bit over a year now. And when I started, I'd never had financial advice. So I've been sort of shopping around and going and speaking to people, financial advisors, and saying, hey, what would you do for me? And that first, even though I've been doing it as part of my job, that first interaction with any financial advisor, I feel nervous. I think, oh, I'm not going to have enough money for them.
It's like a job interview.
Or, yeah, it's scary, and I force myself to do it. But they've all been super helpful, and they've said, "Oh yeah, actually, you need to think about that. Have you thought about this?" And they've taught me things that I didn't know, and I thought I was a relatively financially kind of stable and educated person. But that first hurdle of like going and telling somebody how much debt you've got, or how much you haven't got, or actually I don't know what an ISA is, or I know I'm supposed to do something with this, but I'm a bit nervous of it, so I haven't really bothered. I think it's just it's kind of shame, history, gossip, the negative side getting the volume rather than the positive side.
It's just thoroughly un-British as well, isn't it? To walk into a room with a stranger and go, this is how much I earn, this is how much debt I have, this is what I'd like to achieve in the future. Like maybe other nations, sure, but for us, we want to walk in, make a joke about how bad our hair is and talk about the weather and leave, and that's all we have.
And I think that's an interesting idea of sort of shopping around. I'm not sure that most people would think of doing that. It's almost like you have to pick one, you have to pick a winner, and it has to be great off the bat. But
I think I already kind of made the example into other industries, but a good few years ago now, I went and had some therapy, and I spoke to a therapist, and I hated it. And my friend said, "Oh, that's fine. You've got to kiss a few frogs. You know, you've got to find the one that works for you. It's not that therapy is not for you. It's that therapist didn't work for you." And that idea of finding a coach or finding a personal trainer or finding a financial advisor, you're allowed to not get on with them on a personal level, or to find their approach too rigid, or to think, oh, they're a bit too fluffy for me. Actually, I want someone who's just going to talk to me in numbers. It is understandable that the first financial advisor you meet may not be the right one for you, but that doesn't mean that financial advice isn't the right thing for you. And that's where the kind of benefits of understanding that you are entitled to it, not entitled because you have to pay for it, but as in you're allowed to want it. You're allowed to be asking for this. This is a service you can buy. You are as much a customer of this as anybody else would be. You're allowed to do it. Go and speak to some people. See what
Don't
you
you think
see. What
it's
matters.
hard though, because as much as that's all correct, so many people are so time poor. So to find an advisor, set up the meeting, go to the meeting, that's several hours of your life. And the idea that you might have to do it a few times, I think, is maybe why people meet that first one, it doesn't go well, and they swear it off for life, because, you know, the idea of committing to doing that several times to find the right one, it's going to be a long-term investment. It absolutely is going to pay off for you to do that, but it's really hard.
Oh, and you've got weeks between each meeting. You have your first 20 minutes and they say, oh, come back to me in 10 days and give me I've been shopping around because I've been doing it for my job. I do not think it's realistic for people to spend 3 months interviewing multiple financial advisors to find the right one for them. To caveat, I have been doing that. I've been doing that as a kind of secret shopping, let me learn about the industry. But you also don't have to take the first person that you speak to. It's like when a tradie comes around and tells you that it's going to cost 10 grand to do the front of your house. You think, maybe it'll cost me 8 grand if I speak to someone else. But this is why most financial advice referrals come from someone who knows them. So very rarely would you actually go online and search for financial advisors near me. You might read the reviews, you might have a look, but fundamentally, I would ask my friends. I would say, do any of you have a financial advisor that you would recommend? And I will come and use them, because you know that someone else has tried it, someone that you trust has tried it. And it's that trust word, isn't it? It's Google reviews can be faked.
Yeah.
Any of that can be faked. But I want my friend who I trust and who I believe to tell me I should go to them, which is, again, where that family history of, don't go to so-and-so down the road because your grandma had a bad time with them, that matters a lot.
I wonder if we can zero in on what I think is one of the key problems for people, and that's the cost. And if I could break it down into kind of, there are 3 potential problems. Number one, it actually is too expensive for a lot of people with small pension pots or not huge savings. Number 2, it's perceived to be too expensive and actually isn't. Or number 3, that people don't quite realise the value that they're going to get for it. So they don't realise that it's going to make them wealthier over time. I wonder if I could ask you both where you think the problem, whether there's one of those problems that sort of stands out.
I liken it to insurance. I've been driving for 18 years, never claimed on my insurance. How much money have I spent on it? But I know it's there when I need it, if I need it. And I think advice is like that. It's almost a speculate to accumulate thing of, I might have to pay this out to get this advice. But do I know if the advice is going to be good? Do I know if the investments they choose are going to be any better than what I'd choose for myself? Do I know that they can find me some tax savings I couldn't find myself? So I think, like Rowan said earlier, that trust and that taking that leap of faith. I think it is hard. And I think the actual cost, I mean, it's not going to be the cheapest thing you do, but again, it's that investment in yourself, and the same way you'd invest in a gym membership for yourself or in therapy to improve your mental well-being. It's kind of, I think we have to change our attitude to it. But I also think that financial advice of the past has created this problem for us, because for decades financial advisors would kind of go about purporting that what they were doing was free and you were getting free advice, and you never see it. But obviously it's all coming out of the bottom line of your investment. And RDR, undeniably a good bit of legislation, but it's put those costs on the table and made it a lot harder for people to kind of square that circle.
I think you're right to think of it as a maintenance cost. You pay for your insurance, you pay for your fuel, you pay for your gym, you pay for your groceries once a week. And you are absolutely right that the cost should be on the table, and you should be very clear about what you are paying for and what you will get in return for that. But that value you get for it, Cherry, is you kind of ask, is it clear what the value is? I think that's the real nub of it. It's very hard to explain to someone who has not ever had advice before, or who has not had the financial education to understand about accumulation and how your percentages, the increase of 1% on your investments every year over 10 years will undoubtedly pay for the 0.7% fee or the 1.2, depending on what your advisor is putting on there. The work they will be doing to actually actively manage your portfolio, or to put you into a kind of system of choice, will be better than if you do nothing. You're right, Holly, that you said kind of, is it better than the investments I do myself? There are lots of people out there who think about it and who do proactively DIY their own financial plan. I'm one of those people. I've been doing it for a long time, and I think I've been doing an all right job of it. But frankly, I would probably have made more money and had to put less of my time and effort into it if I had just paid someone else to do it. Because yes, they do take that money off the bottom, but they're also kind of managing you in a cohort of other people, and they've got that context of what everybody else is doing to know whether you are on track or not. And that kind of on track, off track is which we talk a lot about in our business, and it's what we put in front of end clients for within our reports or within our kind of digital advice app. That's the important thing. How do you know if you are DIYing your own system, who are you comparing yourself to? How do you know whether your 7% increase year on year is good or bad? Do you know that actually if you'd gone with that advisor, it might be 8 or it might be 9, it might be 6, it might be 5. The idea of being managed in a group gives you that confidence that they're looking at you as part of the whole. So they can confidently say to you, actually, Rowan, your 7.2% growth year on year this year is significantly better than other people who we've been managing because you've done X, Y, Z or however. You're getting the kind of context that an advisor would have because they're doing it day in, day out, and they're working with 100, 150, 200 clients each. And if they're part of a bigger firm, you're getting the benefit of thousands of other clients and them seeing the data of how that's all working and telling you, we are confident that you are getting the best return you could get right now, given everything that we know about you. When you're DIYing it, which, as I said, I do, I have no idea. I don't know what I'm comparing myself to. I just want someone to tell me I'm doing a good job. And that, I think, is also the confidence you get from an advisor.
Yeah, I think there are presumably pinch points as well. I mean, I would be fairly happy to manage my own sort of accumulation pod, but I'm not so sure I could deal with the sort of all the risks that come at retirement and drawdown and those kind of things. I mean, that seems to me a real point at which advice is really necessary because you can make some genuinely horrible mistakes.
I also think there's also, because the information is out there, if you have the time to, it's all there some way. There is almost like this guilt factor of I should be engaged with my finances. I should DIY this just because you can. And we shouldn't ignore the fact that a lot of people don't have the time to, are just not interested, don't have the capacity to, and do want to just outsource that. And I don't think that should be a guilt thing because, again, I wouldn't cut my own hair if it requires expertise. I mean, I did trim my own fringe in the lockdown and that went really badly. And I watched a YouTube video of it, so I'm sure I could have done better. But I just think there is this thing of like, if you're not engaged with it, not everyone needs to be the best investor in the world. And you should just make use of that resource. And like you say, Rowan, if someone who's got that expertise can pull you with other people like you and put you on the right track, and you don't have to think about it.
I think that idea of pay someone for expertise so you don't have to do it yourself is exactly that. And there is loads of content out there, but a lot of it is very bad. A lot of it is very poor. It's poorly researched, it's poorly refined, it's very generic, it doesn't account for your context, your circumstances, and actually you'll do more harm than good DIY. Sometimes, I would say, lots of people will do more harm than good DIYing it. But what you said, Cherry, about kind of getting to that point of inflection where it becomes complicated, you're right, that is often the point where people think, I should go and get some financial advice. But if for the 30 years before that, you had been having that small, incremental, tiny improvement year on year on year, you'd have more to play with at that point. And that, I think you hit the nail on the head there where you said you'd be comfortable doing it yourself, but then you'd get to a difficult, sticky bit and think, I should have some advice. I think that's how most people approach it. I think about going and getting tax advice when I am doing something that will potentially cost me lots of money and be worrying. I might have a capital gains tax. I should go and ask for some help. But actually, that proactive, actually, I don't need any help right now, but please just tend to my garden for me, make my money work harder for me, means that at those moments it is easier. Because if you wait till retirement and you go to a financial advisor and go, here's everything that I've done, this is how I've got it all set up. You might have 4 different pension pots. They might be invested in completely different ways. They might have completely different T's and C's around them. You might have thought you were doing the right thing and actually you've made a mess. I think your fringe, Holly, your fringe. You wouldn't do your own car, would you? Some people might tinker with it, but that's a hobby for them, and therefore it becomes their kind of 5 to 9 after their 9 to 5. If you want to become really good at investing and really good at financial management, great, that can be your hobby. But not everybody needs to have understanding and managing their own finances as a hobby on top of everything else that they're trying to do.
So I wonder if, I guess the bigger question that we're really looking at here is how we turn sort of support exists. There's advice out there to who can you trust? Do you need it? Who can you trust? Is it easy to use? I wonder what role this new targeted support regime plays in that. I mean, Rowan, do you think it will be a game changer in the cost of advice or the accessibility of advice?
I think it could be, and that's a very political answer for lots of reasons. I think that the idea and the intention between targeted support and the AGBR is brilliant. The concept of I'm a big financial company and I know enough about you that I could actually, with quite good certainty, reach out to you and suggest that you might want to do something is excellent. It's proactive advice at its finest. My worry is that actually, if I look at my own personal situation, I've probably got 8 or 9 different institutions who might feel that they want to reach out to me, and then I'll just ignore them all because it'll be too many, or it won't come at the right time, or as you say, Holly, it'll be boring, and I'll think, I'll get to that later. It won't be at the right moment for me. But I do think it will help with the cost and access for advice for people who want it. So the proactive outreach of targeted support, I think, will need to be handled really well. I suspect it will need to be reviewed a good couple of times over the next few years so that the kind of consumer doesn't feel exhausted by the amount of letters that come through the door, or, oh, we're just ringing you today, Miss Whittington, to talk to you about this. Go away, leave me alone. I don't want your proactive outreach. But the idea on advice, it will allow financial advisors to step more closely away from advice and into guidance. The advisors for the last however many years have been quite worried about accidentally giving somebody advice or giving somebody something that needs to be regulated, and actually allowing probably medium to large advice firms the capacity to say, we now have this other solution. We now have an ability to give you some generic guidance or support will really help. Because back to the original question, why do people think that they don't need advice? It's because they're scared to go and speak to a financial advisor because they think it's going to be this big, exam where they have to get every question right and they have to have prepared all their paperwork and here's my box full of files and they're embarrassed and it's shameful and it's this huge big deal. Whereas the changes that can come as a part of this review will mean that advisors can say, yeah, you've given me a couple of pieces of information. Knowing what I know off those pieces of information, here's my answer. Don't hold me to it. I don't have all the context. If you want to talk to me properly and go through this through a full advice process, feel free. It will create more leads for the advisors, and it will allow people to get personalised, but not hyper detailed advice, which I think it's a game changer. Yeah. But as I said, I personally don't want to be on everybody's dartboard of who's going to try and manage to get Rowan to take out another ISA, because they can't see that actually I've got my ISA over here and I've got this other thing over here, and they can't see my full picture. So there will be certain people who will be able to do it better. So I think pension companies, if you've consolidated, they do know more about you, where your money is. If you've only got one bank, maybe they'll have done well, but I think anybody who looks at my financial situation will see I'm moving money around 3 different bank accounts, and so hopefully targeted support, proactive outreach will be done in a classier way.
Yeah, Holly, I mean, do you have a sense of what kind of characteristics targeted support will need to be a success? I mean, having looked at some really not great, sort of marketing stuff in the past.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes, actually, because I think, as Rowan said, advisors have been so scared to violate the rules for the past 10 years or so that they've gone almost too far in the other direction. And perhaps that sort of almost widened the advice gap. But I've spoken to a couple of firms recently who are exploring almost these advice light options. And I think this kind of comes back to that point we were making earlier about how do you bring people into advice earlier. Of the fact is that someone in their 20s or 30s with a really simple situation probably doesn't need to sit down with an advisor once a year. And if we think about how younger generations prefer to communicate, the idea of going to someone's office is probably really scary. It feels like going to the headmaster's office. What they probably want is something much more informal, a sort of almost chatbot situation. And yeah, I am speaking to firms who are kind of exploring how they can utilize something like an online chat for really basic advice and guidance needs, and do that at a much lower price point. And that way you can bring people along on their journey and into full advice when it gets to the point that they need it. And like Rowan said, hopefully they're coming into their advice in a much better shape because they've had those nudges along the way. So I agree. I think it's going to be really good, but I think there's going to be massive winners and losers from it. And we'll see some firms really innovate and do some really good stuff, and others will just be sending a lot of mail blasts.
Yeah, that poor experience, and that kind of, you can do it, but do it well, and then it will work out okay. But if the quality isn't assessed and the governance isn't there to make sure that it's worth the money, then the trust will be gone. And the whole point of this is you have to trust the source of that information. And that's why historically face-to-face advice has been the kind of top of the tree in terms of what you want. You want someone to sit with you. You want them to spend hours thinking about you. But that is just not possible at scale and on a mass basis. Not everybody can, or not everybody needs 2 or 3 hours a year with their advisor. So taking that secret sauce and digitising it and making it into a set of really well thought through educational videos or educational quizzes, or, as you say, a chatbot that you've trained to give it real detail, is exactly what firms are talking about. And we've been speaking to lots of firms as well, Holly, and I completely agree that there will be those that do and do it well. There will be those that don't and kind of lose out for not doing it. And then there'll be those who try and don't do it very well that I do think it'll be a risk for, and we don't want that. We've already got an internet that's full of bad advice. So let's not add more to it just because we can now do targeted support.
So, I mean, my next question was going to be around, the role of digital solutions in kind of broadening the accessibility of advice. I mean, it seems to me this isn't really possible without some sort of digital solution. And you've mentioned a couple there, chatbots. I mean, anything else, Rowan? Anything that you're looking at?
Yeah, so we with advised customers, there are many ways that you can make that process more efficient, which then allows you to take on more fully advised customers, right? You don't have to spend 8 hours per case or 4 hours preparing or 2 hours doing this. You can bring that time down so that you can genuinely bring on more advised customers through using digital, through using automation, through kind of mass communication, through an app or through your kind of choice of digital channel. And then for those customers who come along who you say, well, you don't really need full advice, but you know what? I'll give you this app. We've got an app called Tram that we would encourage people to use like this. Here you go. You can have this. Pay me a set amount a month, set amount a year. Within there, you will find very high quality content. I will send you a bulletin once a month that's kind of my view on the markets. I'll let you fill out your financial information so that actually you'll track it. The ability for me to put my pension and my investments in the same app, I'd pay for that. In fact, that is what we're doing. That's what we're doing through Tram. I'd pay for just that, to just have it all in one view, have all of my financial plan in one place. That doesn't mean I need advice. Doesn't mean I need to be paying the kind of fee on the rest of it. So the digital will allow regular access, immediate access, direct interaction if you need it, but also that kind of, you'll have a key that unlocks something that is safe and is secure. So when I ask my friend, who's your financial advisor, and she says, oh, it's ABC Investors, and I go to ABC Investors and they say, oh, Rowan, you're a bit young to need permanent advice, but we'll give you a little bit of one-off advice now. Would you like to use our app? I'll say, yeah, brilliant, thank you. And actually, I'll spend 8 years never speaking to them, but seeing their regular newsletters, watching their regular view of the world, seeing their reaction to political things that are happening all over. And I'll get to see everything in one place. Perfect. Ideal. And then when I need advice, I'll go back to ABC Investors and go, hi, I'm one of your loyal youngsters who you didn't really want at the time, but I need to talk to you now. Could you help me with this complicated thing?
I fully agree that we need that product because, I mean, if you think about how long the pension dashboard stuff of myth and legend has apparently been in the offing and they can't get that right. And I think people's, from that perspective of, Rowan, you were saying, I've got this many accounts. Our finances are becoming ever more complicated because of that, because it's so easy to open an account and we're told to switch bank accounts, which we absolutely should, and open a new ISA every year, which we absolutely should, and take advantage of all these deals. You can easily end up with 10, 15 financial accounts, which, by the way, all need to have different passwords and you can't write many of them down. And it's a nightmare. If we can have everything in one place, if we can get all the institutions talking to each other and get that really joined up, I mean, imagine a world where there are no lost pension pots. We could solve that. It would be magical.
And open finance will help with that. Open banking has helped with that. Although I think the open banking's really helped in budgeting and it's helped in that world, but it needs to come into the advice world.
Yeah.
In Tram, we're about to go live with a financial advice solution for our staff, where we will automatically put in the pension provider that we've got, and then you can go in and list any other ones that you want to, and I'll be able to see everything in one place. And our vision for Tram is that we would add in the ability for me to add my credit card, add everything into one place, so it's genuinely my digital wallet of my actual financial plan. Because there are apps out there, there's the Snoops of the world, there's Emmas of the world, but they can't see my pension. So for their view, I might be super wealthy and they might go, brilliant, we don't need to give her any targeted support, but actually I've got nothing in my pension. Or their view might be, she spends too much on takeaways and doesn't have much left, but I might have millions in my pension. The only way that you can get a full view is with the access that a financial advisor has, because they are allowed to ask for permission to go and look at your pension and to look at all of your investments. That's the key. That's the most important bit, is getting all that information to one place and empowering you as an individual to look at it regularly and go, that seems to be doing okay. Actually, I'm quite confident in my savings. I feel like I'm on plan.
Yeah, I mean, Rowan, I wonder what the interaction should be between an advisor and those apps. I mean, would you recommend, sorry, there's no nice way to say this, but kind of going in, having a nose around and saying, so that, or having little, setting up little trigger points so that when a client tips over, I don't know, £250,000 or is reaching a sort of crunch point, like 5 years out from retirement or whatever, you get a little, thing saying.
Yeah, I think it'd be rules, right? It would be Rowan has had £50,000-ish roughly for the last couple of years. Oh, her number has magically gone from 50,000 to 150. She's just had an inheritance. Yeah. Now's the time for us to reach out and talk to her.
Rowan has robbed a bank.
Yeah, Rowan has magically found, actually she's got lots more pounds under her bed. But yeah, you take the I think there's kind of, is it 12 to 20? Don't know how many there are, but there's a certain amount of targeted support use cases that have been highlighted. Almost all of those, if you have enough data about me, you can tell whether I fall into that bucket or not. So if I'm on your app, if I am in your pot, and you see a change in data, that we will automate. Now, that's what we're doing. We will automate that. So you don't have to be regularly snooping around and going and look at every single person, because that defeats the point of it being kind of digital and automated. But if you've got that data and it comes to you every day or every week or every month or however often you want to look at it, you can proactively outreach, and that outreach will be really high quality.
Yeah.
Rowan, it looks like you've started to have more income every month. You've just got a new job. Have you thought about what that means for your life insurance or what that means here? And you could ask them. You could do occasional, do you want to fill out a fact find for us just to make sure your data's up to date? Have your circumstances changed? Feel free to come give us a proactive fact find update. And we would then build, and we are building kind of systems to review the fact find and say, actually, something's changed. We think you should talk to them. you can bring them within the advice processes and systems without them being advised and without the kind of regulated side of it, but with all the benefits of knowing what to look for, and the data will be super powerful in that.
I think this is going to be a journey, though, because I think absolutely for the younger generations, that is perfect. That's how they want to communicate. That's how they want to get their nudges. The situation you described, if I think about my father-in-law, would absolutely freak him out, and he would throw his phone out of the window if it started saying, "You've got more income, I think you should do this." So I think, but it's probably actually a really good thing, because we know that the financial advice world is perhaps not always the most dynamic of beasts or the most willing to change. So I think as financial advisors get used to not having as many of those face-to-face meetings as we phase that out, it's going to just be sort of a natural evolution to a new style of communication. So probably over the next 10 years, we'll see this play out. And I should imagine, the delivery of advice is going to be so different in 10 or 15 years' time.
And you can do it differently for different people. There's not, it's not one size it's not, oh, I've decided to go digital, therefore everybody must be digital. Oh, I've decided that I will always nudge people in this situation, therefore anybody in that situation will get it. The capacity that automating and digitising advice and targeted support will provide to the people who can make the decisions about what they do will allow them to be much more nuanced. You can have 100 different scenarios, 1,000 different scenarios, and you can make it nuanced. You can make it feel personalised. You can make it specific to those people. And you could, your initial onboarding of your father-in-law could ask the question, how would you feel if this sort of thing happened? In Dynamic Planner, we do a lot of behavioural psychology, and we would find something that says, do you know what? Do not do that to him because it will stress him out. Okay, fine, we won't. We'll treat him like this. We'll give him this journey. He can have this process. We'll never send him a video because he's made it very clear he doesn't like videos. We'll only ever send him an email, or you can tailor it, but you can only do that when you're doing it digitally, because you've got that capacity and that ability. And if your father-in-law went to an advisor, they would probably somewhere say, oh, okay, we're never going to send him this type of thing. They might remember that, but they'd have to remember that, and they'd have to have the emotional IQ to be able to remember that and do it and action it. But if you can scale that, it's much more impressive and much more effective.
Now, just in the last minute or so, if we could just cover, whether this is actually the point at which the advice gap really starts to close, and, how confident are you that this actually could be a game changer? Holly, I'll put that to you first.
Yeah, I think it will be a game changer. I think perhaps some of the advice industry has been a little bit reticent to embrace technology and digitisation. I think that will pass. And also, if we want to get the next generation of advisors through, then that's all going to look really different as well. I just think it's an evolution, isn't it? So it's not going to happen overnight. But if we can use technology to make advice more scalable, quicker to deliver, cheaper to deliver, then it has to follow that we can reach more people in a more efficient and targeted way. And then surely the gap closes.
Yeah. Rowan, last word to you.
I think we've covered that it has to be done right and it has to be done well for it to actually work. So there'll be winners and there'll be losers. But I also think what I found the most interesting about this conversation is actually that it's not, digital is a solution. It is part of the solution. And I strongly believe that. It's my job to believe that. And it's my job to make you think that it is there. Which it is, right? Digital's we have to keep up with the times. If you think about everything that you've got on your pocket and your phone right now, you have to keep up with the times. Of course, digital is an answer. But really, it's back to the first question you asked, which is why don't people want advice? Why do people not go and get it? It's because they don't think it's for them. The power of advice, the value of advice, there's a marketing problem here. There's a messaging problem here. We need, the government is doing brilliant work with targeted support, HBR, wonderful. But that needs to then be followed on with these are reasons you might want to speak to a financial advisor. These are reasons you might want help. Here's a financial education program that's actually going to go into schools and talk to kids from the age of 5 onwards, that's going to help them have a better financial education. Because we can provide, and we are providing, significantly improved advice processes. We will provide amazing targeted support processes. It will be digital. It will be amazing. You know, whatever you want, we'll do it. But the customer, the person on the street needs to know it's something that they want, needs to know it's something that they can use, needs to know it's for them. And we need to remove that shame and that fear and that, as you say, Holly, that kind of Britishness of not talking about it. That's the bit that I think is going to be the hardest. And we're doing everything we can on that. We're providing good content, we're providing good education. But for us at Dynamic Planner, people have to already be talking to an advisor before they're going to get to that value. It's the proactive kind of consumer-facing comms to encourage people to want it. That's the thing that I think will be important, and bigger firms will have the marketing budget to be able to do that. And I would encourage them to do so.
Great. Okay, we will wrap up there. Thank you so much, Rowan. Thank you, Holly. Really interesting insights there. And thank you to everyone for joining us. And please do keep an eye out for the next episode.